All right, welcome everyone. Today we're diving into a topic that is absolutely critical for understanding our modern world: AI assistance as a foundational instrument for economic survival. We're not just talking about a fancy new technology, we're talking about a strategic imperative. So let's start with the central question that confronts every single one of us, from an individual trying to build a career, to a startup with a great idea, all the way up to established global organizations. In an economy that feels like it's in constant flux, with resources always feeling scarce, how do we move beyond just tread in water? How do we actually build something that lasts? To answer that, we're going to break it down systematically. First, we'll define the modern economic challenge we're all facing. Then, we'll examine the three pillars that AI brings to the table: adaptability, efficiency, and data-driven decision-making. After that, we'll look at the human side of the equation, the new partnership between people and AI. And finally, we absolutely must address the ethics of it all. Okay, so first things first. We have to understand the environment we're operating in. What exactly makes today's economic landscape so challenging? Here's the core of it. We live in an age of high volatility. Think about it. A supply chain breaks on the other side of the world, and suddenly, a small business can't get its parts. A new trend explodes on social media, and an entire market shifts overnight. In this kind of environment, a single bad decision, or even just a delay in making the right one, can trigger a cascade of problems. Reacting after the fact is simply no longer good enough. So our objective can't just be survival. The real goal is to build what we call economic resilience. And what is that exactly? It's the ability to see a shock coming, to absorb its impact without breaking, and critically to recover and adapt. It's not about building a rigid wall. It's about being more like a strong, flexible tree that can bend in a storm and not snap. So how do we build that resilience? Well, our first foundational pillar is adaptability. This is about being able to pivot, to change course quickly and intelligently. And this is where AI truly begins to change the game. Take a look at this cycle. This is how AI creates adaptability. It starts with continuous analysis. The AI is constantly scanning terabytes of data, everything from your internal costs to external market chatter. Then it does something that humans are, not so great at. It detects tiny anomalies, subtle shifts in patterns that signal a change is coming long before it's obvious. And that's the key. That early warning gives you the time to make a proactive adjustment, to pivot before a small issue becomes a full-blown crisis. And let's be clear about this. The true value here isn't just in gathering data. It's in the capacity for proactive adjustment. It's the difference between reading yesterday's newspaper and getting a glimpse of tomorrow's headlines. It allows you to move from being reactive to being predictive. Now for our second pillar, AI-driven efficiency. Because being adaptable is great, but if you're wasting resources, you're still vulnerable. So how do we optimize everything we have, especially when the pressure is on? When we talk about operational efficiency, I want you to get the idea of just blindly slashing budgets out of your head. That's the old brute force way of doing things. True efficiency is about intelligence. It's about maximizing the value you get from every single input, every dollar, every hour of work, every unit of energy, by surgically eliminating waste and redundancy. This table gives us a fantastic, real-world contrast. Let's imagine a small business facing rising costs. The traditional approach? Panic and make across-the-board cuts. The result? You might save money, but you've also damaged your capacity to operate. Now look at the AI-assisted approach. Instead of guessing, the AI conducts a deep audit and pinpoints the exact sources of waste. Maybe it's in the supply chain, maybe it's energy consumption. The result is targeted cost reduction that doesn't harm the core business. It's the difference between using a hatchet and a scalpel. This brings us to our third and arguably most important pillar: making decisions based on data. Because you can't be adaptable or efficient if your choices are based on a gut feeling. You need to move from assumption to evidence. And this is a fundamental cultural shift. For centuries, business was run on intuition and experience. But AI allows us to move from "I think this will work" to "the data models predict with a high degree of confidence that this will work." That small change in language represents a massive improvement in the probability of long-term survival. And just look at the numbers here. They speak for themselves. Relying on intuition alone is basically a coin toss. Even being data-informed gives you a decent boost. But look at that last bar, AI augmented. Notice the word is augmented, not replaced. This isn't about letting a machine make all the decisions. It's about combining human experience, wisdom, and strategic oversight with the raw analytical power of AI. That partnership is how you get to an 85% success rate. Okay, so we've established these three powerful AI pillars. But that raises a huge question. What does this mean for us, for people? What does this mean for our jobs and the skills we need to cultivate for the future? There's a profound shift happening in what the economy values. The skills of the past, things like repetitive tasks, manual data entry, those are precisely the things that AI excels at. The valuable skills for the future are uniquely human, setting strategic goals, solving messy, complex problems, and, crucially, providing the ethical oversight for these powerful AI systems. This chart really visualizes that transformation. Look at how an individual's workday gets reallocated. The time spent on mundane, repetitive tasks plummets. And where does all that freed up time and energy go? It goes into strategic planning. AI doesn't just replace work, it frees up our human capital to focus on higher value activities. It elevates the nature of our work. So for every one of us, this is a call to action. Economic survival in this new era depends on a personal commitment to growth. It means upskilling to work alongside AI, sometimes reskilling for entirely new roles, and most importantly, embracing a mindset of lifelong learning. Our relevance is not something that's given, it's something we must actively maintain. Finally, we cannot conclude a discussion like this without turning a serious eye to the ethics of it all, because with this immense technological power comes an equally immense responsibility. We have to ask ourselves some very hard questions as we build this new economic framework. How do we ensure that the algorithms we use are fair and don't perpetuate existing biases? How do we maintain transparency so that we understand how decisions are being made? And critically, how do we design these systems so that they create inclusive growth and don't just widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots? These domains you see here are not optional add-ons. They must be core principles built into the design of our AI systems from day one. Protecting data, demanding transparency, designing for inclusivity, and thoughtfully managing the impact on human employment, these are the pillars of responsible innovation. So, to synthesize everything we've discussed today, AI assistance is not just another piece of software. It is a foundational component of modern economic strategy. It is the bedrock upon which resilience, efficiency, and intelligent growth will be built in the 21st century. And so I'll leave you with this question to consider as you move forward. You are the future architects of our economy. You will be the ones designing and deploying these systems. So the question isn't just what can AI do, but what should it do? How will you use this incredible power to build a future that is not only prosperous, but also one that is equitable and resilient for everyone? That is the challenge ahead.